Often with lunch, I'm thinking it's time for takeout. It's quick, it's easy, it's satisfying, it's expensive. Doing this daily is just unreasonable. Also, what are the ingredients in this meal again? It's just not a sustainable way to live. If you could come up with a few meals that meet the positive end of that criteria, which are quick, easy, satisfying, now we can add affordable and sustainable, and we can completely change our lives. Each meal is aimed to be similar to takeout and or that at-home lunchtime classic. Starting out with these lettuce wraps inspired by P.F. Chang's. This is an appetizer in the restaurant, and I can never understand why restaurants would have these legendary appetizers and like meh meals. Excuse my voice as I have gotten like zero sleep due to the kids having a hard time this week. This appetizer used to cost me like $7 to $10, maybe even more. I haven't been there in a long time. I just know it wasn't cheap. Now at home, I can have this for a little over $1 per serving, but I can have like almost 3 to 4 servings. I'm using a super firm tofu in this one, not only for texture, but also because it speeds up the prep time. Typically, I would spend a ton of time squeezing out all of the water from my tofu, but the firmer the toe, the less of the foo. That just doesn't sound as good as it did up here. Basically, it's much less water in firm tofu. But if you're allergic to tofu, or maybe tofu just isn't your thing, I have used this with pea protein crumbles and or like other meat substitutes that are similar to chicken or beef. Also, some of the ingredients you can sub rather than just, going out to buy it just for this recipe, such as like the rice wine vinegar, for example. You could use white wine vinegar or even apple cider vinegar, which is typically more common as a like household staple. Coconut aminos is another good one if you need this to be, more soy free. That will replace the soy sauce. As for the water chestnuts, they're super cheap and they're probably more common than you think. I get them from Walmart or Target, and they are just indispensable in this dish. The taste is like nutty, tart, and sweet all at the same time. And if you're allergic to nuts, no worries, because water chestnuts, believe it or not, aren't even nuts. Well, check with your doctor, because if you eat it and tell your doctor that Andrew said it was okay, I'll look you both dead in the eye and like Shaggy, it wasn't me. This may be only me, but I feel lunchtime in the day is the only meal time that I just can't control. Dinner, I can eat pretty much whenever I want. Breakfast, I can wake up earlier if I want. Can being the key word there. Could, should, might, someday. Yeah, I'm not doing that. But lunch, my whole life, has always been timed from grade school to an adult. So I always feel like I'm being rushed. Even on weekdays, I look at the clock like, I can't wait till lunch. But then I'm like, today is Saturday. You can eat when you want. For me, there are triggers that make me feel like I'm eating lunch. One that I realized is that when I'm eating something handheld, that in itself feels like lunch to me. I mean, even if it's takeout, right? Like, I would have the platter in one hand and my food utility of choice in the next. So finding foods for me that register and turn on that psychological switch was key. Burgers for me at any joint would cost, I don't know, $8 to $10, and maybe you get some chips, maybe you get some fries, maybe you don't get either. Basically, it would be extra. What was also extra was my dry cleaning bill, as I could never keep my shirt clean with a burger. So I broke down the classic burger and tossed it into a wrap. And I love that my dry cleaner and I are no longer on last name basis anymore. Oh, and it cost me like right under $1. So if you like using, Beyond or one of those other, meat substitutes, you can do that. Works really well in this recipe as well. But obviously cost is a bit more. In this recipe, I cook the onions on high, and that gets like that little charred bits on the ends of them. And it really gives it that backyard classic cookout feel. Lentils are perfect for me in this recipe as they come with a ton of health benefits, but also they have a really good mouthfeel, as if you had actually crushed up a burger and or we're using crumbles in this recipe. Vegan Worcestershire or Worcestershire, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Either way, it's a bit tough to come by. It's also could be kind of pricey. So often I swap this with steak sauce, which is almost 100% vegan. Almost. There's some that's not. I also prefer more of a saucy cheese on this one. I have a homemade one linked in the description. These are super kid friendly and they are amazing to travel with. Just freeze them and take them to go. Obviously, if it's frozen, you're gonna need a microwave wherever you're going, or an oven. Oh, and lentils also have great social benefits. Like if you wanna keep a one-on-one meeting really short, or if coworkers need some, social distancing ambience, lentils are your ally. We couldn't afford a lot when I was younger, so my mom cooked as often as she could, and it was good. So there was almost never a smell that made me feel like I done walked into the wrong house. I taste everything with my nose first. But when tuna was made, I was pretty certain I was in the wrong house. I'd have a shoe in one hand looking at my mom like, lady, you look like my mom, but this don't smell like my house. That didn't go well. But I felt like that about any fish cooked in the house. And although tuna wasn't my favorite, I find I have less hesitation with this vegan version. This classic, obviously different from the first two meals, as the idea here wasn't to replicate something that I would buy as takeout, but rather to have something that was just common that I would make at home and take for lunch. The chickpeas here are used to give the sandwich just, you know, some girth and some texture, while the main texture comes from the hearts of palm and also the flavor coming from the dulce flakes. These flakes may be a little bit more rare and harder to come by, but what's more common is nori, which is just another name for dry seaweed, and nori is everywhere. You know, you crush those up and it actually replicates the flakes, and I actually like this option better. Everything else here is fairly easy to come by and not a huge allergy concern, outside of maybe the Old Bay seasoning, which isn't a must in the recipe, but it definitely goes a long way. It's a pretty random ingredient, but it's a really, really good one, especially on some like French fries. All the recipes today are linked in the description with amounts and nutrition. Check out one of my other videos here on budget or possibly some other meal ideas in general. Thank you so much for your time and for hanging with me, even though I had the irregular voice today. As always, believe in good. Peace.